Welcome to my channel. My name is Ria, and in this video we are going to talk about the new moon happening in the sign of Cancer. We will also talk about the nodal shift and a few other things that are going on. So let's get started. Now, a new moon in astrology signifies new beginnings. It's a point when new energy comes in. It's the beginning of a new cycle. What energy comes in is what we seed and work on for the next lunar month, for the next 28 days or so this is the new moon. You can see the sun and the moon are together, and it's in the sign of Cancer at 24 degrees, right? So this is a new moon, and like I said, new energy coming in, new beginnings, new cycle. Cancer is associated with nourishment, it's associated with self-care, it's associated with feeling safe and secure as well, this feeling of safety. It's associated with our inner being as well, right? Cancer is a deep part of ourselves. It's the emotional part of ourselves. So on a general level, these are the broad themes that are highlighted. If you know your specific charts, look for 24 degrees of Cancer, whichever house that falls in. That's the area of your life that's highlighted with this new moon. If you don't know your chart, that's perfectly okay. Let's talk about the aspects that are going on, because the aspects color the energy of the new moon. So let's get started. Now, this moon, you can see, is in an opposition with Pluto. This right here is Pluto, 29 degrees. The moon's at almost 25 degrees. So it's not an exact opposition, but it is still an opposition. And Pluto here brings changes, it brings transformation, it brings endings and beginnings. It's the planet of regeneration and renewal as well, right? Because when we end something, we always begin something new. It usually feels like an ending, but there's a beginning there as well. So that's what Pluto brings. And this is in an opposition, a stressful, challenging aspect in astrology. So what this tells me is that there is this energy of change and transformation, which has been there for a few months now, right? But it's there on this moon as well. And this transformation, this change, this ending, this beginning, this renewal, this regeneration may require us to work a little bit, right? Because challenging aspects mean we need to work a little bit harder. So that's what it means. So broad theme is of changes. And if you've been watching me, we've been talking about this for a while now. Pluto here is in a square with the nodes, right? You can see this is Rahu, the north node. This is Ketu, the south node. And Pluto is making a 90-degree angle with both of them. Pluto is a slow-moving energy. So for months now, it's been building this aspect, this 90-degree angle with both north node and south node. And in the coming week, over the course of the next 10 days, this aspect is going to become exact, which means whatever changes, whatever transformation, whatever endings and beginnings we've been working on for months, it's going to be more extreme now, end of July. I spoke about this in my last video as well. So a lot of changes building up, and what I'm trying to say here is that with Pluto in a square to the nodes, we kind of know the changes that are building up. We are aware of them. We've been working on them. And this moon is just going to be another stepping stone, be another step in that change. But over the course of end July, we will see what this Pluto square nodes is all about. We already kind of know it, but we'll see it more intensely. So that is something that I wanted to talk about. And I just want to emphasize that Pluto square the nodes can feel slightly challenging as well, right? Pluto is change, and a square is a challenging aspect. And consider it like this. A square says you need to change, and often we change when there is a certain pressure, a certain friction, a certain feeling of, okay, this is not working, right? So there might be that feeling, but what we need to do is work through that feeling so that we can embrace the change, so that we can align with the change, so that we can grow to accommodate the change, right? Because squares also mean growth, oppositions also mean growth. It's growing. Growing is getting out of our comfort zone, right? So consider it something like that. We need to get out of our comfort zone. We need to grow, and through that process, there will be changes and transformations and endings. And it might feel slightly challenging. But challenging does not mean negative. Often it's through challenges that we change and grow. So that's something I wanted to talk about. And speaking of the nodes, this is important. The nodes are changing signs. So let's talk about the nodes a little bit. This is Rahu, this is Ketu. You can see on the moon, they're at 0 degrees, right? And soon after this moon, soon after, a few hours after this moon, the south node will enter the sign of Libra, and the north node, Rahu, will enter the sign of Aries. It's at 0 degrees of Taurus right now. So the nodes are shifting, and the nodes are changing signs after about 18 months. They changed signs last January 2022. That's when they entered Taurus and Scorpio. And now, after 18 months, they are changing signs again. And what this means is themes are shifting, right? Rahu, the north node in Taurus, meant emphasis on themes of Taurus. Taurus is a financial sign. Taurus is associated with food resources. Taurus is associated with stability. It's the economy. So all these things have been highlighted with the north node, Rahu in Taurus. And Scorpio here is the other financial sign. And with Ketu there, that's also been highlighted. Scorpio is also a lot about letting go. It's ruled by Pluto. Pluto brings endings. Scorpio is about letting go. It's about digging deep. It's about research. So those themes can be highlighted with Ketu there, which they have been in the past 18 months or so. But now the nodes are changing signs. The north node in Aries will highlight Aryan themes, right? Aries is associated with independence. It's our individuality. It's our individual personality, you can say. So that's highlighted. And Libra here is the sign of others, of relationships. So the nodes for the next 18 months will highlight this axis of finding our individuality and working with others. This balance, right, of me versus you, of where we can find that balance, where we can compromise, how we can work together, right? So that's going to be the balance we need to find between our independence and relationships. Aries is also a Mars ruled sign. Mars is the planet of aggression. It's the planet of action as well, but aggression as well. So we can find these themes of aggression and action also highlighted in our personal lives and on a global level. Libra here rules diplomacy, right? It's a diplomatic sign. So on the other hand, there can be this need for diplomacy, for peace, right? Because Libra is also peace. It's a Venus ruled sign. Venus is beauty, it's love, it's peace, it's art. So this is the axis. This is also, you can say, Mars, Aries, masculine, Venus, Libra, feminine, finding the balance between those energies as well. So we'll see a theme shift to sum this up right after this moon, and there are already a lot of changes building. And like I said, end of July with Pluto square the nodes, and then the nodes changing signs, themes are really shifting, changes are happening, but we know what these are in a way, right? Because this energy is building up. This is building up. And let's talk about the nodes a little bit more. So the nodes will square Pluto at 29 degrees, right? This is going to get into 29 degrees of Aries, 29 degrees of Libra, and Pluto is at 29 degrees. So 29 degrees is where the square will start in July, 22nd, 23rd, I believe. That entire week it's going to square 3 times. So that entire week. And 29 degrees of Aries, if you recall, is the eclipse spot. It's the eclipse that happened in April 2023, right? The new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Aries was at 29 degrees, and now the North Node is going to hit that spot, 29 degrees of Aries and square Pluto. And what this means to me is themes from April are coming up in a big way. Right, so yes, it's been connected to the past few months, but connected to April as well specifically. So you might want to think what happened around that eclipse, right? Around 20th April. Did something new start? Did some new mindset start? Did some new events start? What happened around that time? Because 29 degrees is where the North Node is going to be while Pluto squares it. So I just wanted to touch upon that, and let's come back to the moon. There's a lot to talk about on this one. So coming back to the moon, yes, we have all that energy building up, so we're going to feel all those energies along with the moon as well. The moon is in a sextile with Uranus. Uranus is the planet of sudden changes, unexpected changes, of unexpected things, right? So there is this sudden element to this moon. Things that are unexpected can happen. Things that are not planned can happen. Things that are out of the ordinary, you can say, around the moon. And this moon is also in a trine with Neptune. Neptune here is the higher realms, it's spirituality. So, and this is a positive aspect. So what this can mean is, yes, we might feel that these changes that are happening are slightly challenging, slightly overwhelming, but there is a certain, like I said in my last video, destiny at play. The nodes are karmic, right? Neptune also is the higher realm. So it's not the planet of reality, you can say. It's the planet of spirituality. So there can be this feeling of destiny at play and of destiny aligning as well. But it may feel challenging. So that's Neptune. And with Neptune and water signs, this is a good energy for creative work, spiritual work, meditation, yoga, that sort of thing. Now, the next thing I want to touch upon is the fact that Mars and Saturn are building up to an opposition. Mars, Saturn, 4 degrees, 6 degrees. Pisces, Virgo, 180-degree angle. Mars is action, right? And Saturn is restriction. It's discipline, it's persistence, it's hard work, it's all these things. And they're in opposition, which means we need to integrate these two energies. We need to take action with persistence, with discipline, with dedication, with a long-term perspective in mind. It can't just be, okay, I feel like it, let's do it. No. Saturn here is saying, control your action. Take controlled action. Usually these two are considered malefics, right? Mars and Saturn. But I like to take the positive approach of these two planets. And what this can give is extreme discipline. What this can give is extreme dedication. What this can give is taking action in a slow, controlled, persistent, dedicated manner, with a long-term perspective in mind. So work with that energy. Try to integrate these two energies. And speaking of these two planets, if you recall last year in April 2022, Mars and Saturn met up. So they met up, right? They didn't meet up in Virgo, but they met up. They met up in Aquarius. And when two planets meet up, they begin a new cycle. So last April, an almost 2-year cycle began with Mars and Saturn. And now we're at the halfway point of that cycle. And what this means is, think about last April as well, right? April 2022. Think about what themes came up, what started, what were you thinking? Little subtle things, because this is also connected to last April. For one reason, because we have Mars and Saturn building up their opposition, but we also have Uranus at 22 degrees. This is where we had the North Node last year when Mars and Saturn were conjuncting. And this conjunction was in a square to the north at about 22 degrees. Right, so a lot of themes coming up from last April as well. So think about those themes. And before we move on, I just want to mention one more thing about the eclipse that we spoke about that happened in April 2023, where the North Node is going to be right as it squares Pluto. So that eclipse that happened April 2023, not 2022. 2022 is different. It's what we spoke about. But April 2023, around April 20th, is when Pluto squared that eclipse. And now Pluto is going to square the North Node at that eclipse point. So I just wanted to mention that. And few other things happening. We have Venus ready to retrograde. It's been here. It's here. It's going to retrograde 22nd, 23rd July. And what that means is it's going to appear to move backwards. And what that means for us is since June 19th, I believe, that's around when Venus, okay, so when a planet is retrograding, it's going to move forward. Then during retrograde, it moves back and then it moves forward again. So these degrees where Venus has been moving forward, we've covered since June 19th. Now it's going to go back and cover those degrees. And then the third time it's going to cover those degrees again. And what that means is think about relationships and finances since June 19th. Because these are the themes that are going to be highlighted with Venus retrograde. That starts July 22nd, 23rd. And Venus retrograde is something we feel. It's something we feel because it's a personal planet, and with Venus retrograde, it's not the best time to start something brand new with projects, with finances, with relationships. It's a great time to go back to old financial matters, old relationship issues, old projects, and work on those again. And now if you look, Pluto is retrograde, Saturn, Neptune. Now Venus is going to go retrograde few days after this moon, and so will Chiron. Retrogrades mean reflection, and it also means things can feel slow. So on one hand, there's this immense change building up end of July, but we've been working on this change. We kind of have an idea what this change is, but at the same time, like I mentioned in my last video, a contradictory feeling of things feeling a little slow as well. So something to consider. So Chiron retrograde as well, Venus retrograde as well. And these are the main highlights. These are the main highlights of the energy that's going on around this new moon in Cancer. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And to sum it up, I would say this is a very transformational time. End of July, those 10 days, starting July 20th to end July, very big changes in energy. We're starting those changes even now with this new moon, especially with the new moon in an opposition to Pluto, the nodal shift, Pluto square the nodes where the North Node's going to be at the eclipse spot, Uranus at that spot where the North Node squared Saturn last year, Mars-Saturn opposition building up, bringing up themes of last year as well. So significant events happening. But the most important takeaway for this moon is that there will be changes and we need to rise up to the occasion, right? It may feel overwhelming at times. It may feel slightly different from what we are used to. It may feel like very different, but we have an inkling of what these changes that are coming are, and we need to step up to those changes now. So that's all I'm going to say. And in Vedic astrology, this moon is happening in the sign of Cancer as well, but it's happening in the nakshatra of Punarvasu. In Vedic astrology, I like to look at the nakshatra. Nakshatra or lunar mansions are smaller divisions of a sign with their own meaning, own rulership, own everything. And Punarvasu is a nakshatra that's associated with return of the light. It's about renewal. It's about regeneration. It's about the light returning, right? So this moon in Vedic also means renewal, regeneration, changes, transformation. So that's the overall big theme that's been going on for the past few months, which intensified in March, which has been building up, and now it's reaching one peak milestone, right? I say one peak milestone because Pluto here is back in Capricorn. In March, we saw it go into Aquarius. So this is an important milestone in the changes that we have been building and working on. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.